October the 24th, 2025. Guys, you're looking at images over the U.S. and much of the Caribbean. And here is Melissa right there, still moving very slow. It's starting to make that northern push right now. And the way it's set up, we're going to look at the models, is it's going to push north. And as it breaks left, it possibly could even come around Jamaica. But as it breaks left, it's going to rapidly increase because it's going to be kept, I guess, in warmer and moisture water. Now, there's a lot of wind shear coming out of the west. See the tops of the clouds that are associated with this moisture from Melissa? Right there, you can see everything shearing back. But as it starts to turn down, it's not going to be as involved with the upper level wind shear. It's not as strong down here where it's at. And you can see that center of the area has kind of remained very solid around the center of rotation. Slowed down again. I think someone is trying to divert the storm, and it's a battle between them and nature right now. Here in the center of the nation, we've had some very stormy weather since yesterday. As it moves to the northeast, watch for some change in temperatures and possibly precipitation. Also up in the northwest, northern California, moving up through Canada. You've got moisture coming into that area also. Now, zooming in on the Central Caribbean itself, you can see this is the eastern tip of Cuba. Got Haiti coming in through here. Now, right there is the very tip of Jamaica. You can barely see it here. And some of the models have it moving around Jamaica as if Jamaica was an obstacle it couldn't deal with. It's some crazy models out there right now. I really have never seen anything quite like what we're seeing. Now, even though the storm has slowed down, it was at 50, it's at 45 now in the last update. Look at how it's maintaining control and the explosions involved in it. Watch that. That's the sunlight hitting it. Look at that. Maintaining that energy, like it's storing it up, getting ready to make that move rapidly. I mean, going from a 45 to a 50 miles per hour storm to a Cat 4 between here and before it gets to the other side of Jamaica. Now, close up, this is eastern Cuba. This is Jamaica. You can see the entire island. And again, it's predicted to move under it by, I think it's a Canadian model, and then make that turn. And that's a good thing for southern Florida. Now, that's if it holds steady. We're going to have to watch it very closely for the next few days, especially when we get those late evening updates. But right now, you can see the very tip of the storm, and it's not far from you at all, Jamaica. Check that on your eastern tip. But it looks like it's going to move through here and possibly catch Cuba in this area if the motion or the tracking doesn't change much. Now, before we go to the models on the potential hurricane, this is the area in Texas that's becoming very dangerous. Severe thunderstorm watches. You've got severe thunderstorm warnings in the orange areas, and that's usually a very good sign of it's about to become a tornado in many places. Flash flood warnings all the way up already through much of Louisiana and into into Oklahoma. Here's where your storms are coming in that we were talking about on the northwest coast. But because of the temperature, you're going to be looking at storm warnings, winter weather advisories, gale warnings, high surf advisories, anything you could wish for. Up into the northeast, like I was talking about the temperatures, western Pennsylvania coming in there, you've got freeze warnings already. And then in the lighter blue, you're going to be dealing with frost advisories. So as the storm moves into this area, and it's not just the temperature you're going to be dealing with, and we talked about that already because of the lack of tornadoes getting enough heat out of the Atlantic or out of the Atlantic coast along the U.S. that this could be bringing in a lot of moisture this winter. It looks like that's setting up now, so make all your preps. Now, this is the National Hurricane Center's model. We're right here. This would be an hour and 25 minutes ago. Storm was setting here, still a tropical storm. Notice the maximum winds are at 45 miles per hour. They were at 50 until, late yesterday afternoon maybe. And suddenly, as it breaks left, Look at that, rapidly becoming a Cat 4. And with this model, if it doesn't change, Jamaica, your western tip, will take a pretty good lick, but then it wraps it back around. And Guantanamo Bay, you guys better batten down the hatches if this stays at this. In your pink areas, you're under hurricane watches. In the blue areas, you're under tropical storm watches. That will change immediately as this thing becomes a Cat. As a Cat 1 hurricane, they're going to change to hurricane warnings, which will be red. When this goes red, you know it's on. But let me say something about the cone. That's not the size of the storm. Many of you know it. It's the probable path of the storm center, but it does not show the size. Hazardous conditions can occur outside of the cone. In other words, this center line, it has models that show it going this far to left and coming up over, getting closer to western Cuba and much closer to Florida and taking in the northern Bahamas. And this side of it shows a cut and cutting back into Haiti. That's the possible tracks, but they average it and get this pattern here. Again, I've never seen one quite act like this. Jamaica, you don't have much time left to prepare at all. Friends and our troops, we have a lot of people from Cuba that contact us, watched our channel. We have a lot of troops in the area. We have a lot more assets than we normally have in the area because of what's been going on, as you know, between the current administration and the South American groups. You understand. Anyway, so they will move. And this is where the Navy model really starts to come into play because you, as I've said before, who has the most critical assets involved in this? It's the U.S. Navy. Now, guys, as I switch from the National Hurricane Center to the Fox Hurricane Group that's down in Miami, they have the newest update, 12:30 p.m. Look at this. We now have 60 mile per hour winds. So it's starting to make that turn. It's still right here, but it's starting to sense that motion to the left and possibly warmer waters with less wind shear. 60 mile per hour storm now, moving east-southeast at 2 miles per hour, barely moving at all. That's going to give it the time. Look at that. It's really hard to see here into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It will be back over Cuba, according to this model, as a Cat 3, and that's because it may take a little strength out of it on the western tip of Jamaica. Plus, it's showing where it's already come ashore by the time it's a Cat 3 here, not right there. Now, I may start to break out the pencil and the paper and start putting some computer information in from their printouts and get a more accurate impact time and a direct impact area, because it's always to the northeast quadrant where the worst storms are. And so if it follows this, Jamaica, all of this section of your island is going to be hit very hard. And just think about how long it's going to be setting over here with a Cat 1, 2, 3, 4 just off your southern coast. And at its strongest point as it makes that turn to the west. So the safest place, if I was in Jamaica and could not get outbound, would be back on the very eastern tip. But I would be watching it very close, because if some of the models turning further in, then that would be the worst place. But by the time it gets here south of you, we will know much more about it. But be prepared if you can. If you could fly out of there, that would be one thing. But guys, here in the U.S., we've got a lot of government funding problems going on now that they're saying could possibly affect some of the airline booking times and delays and all of that. So be aware of that. But whatever you got to do, you don't want to be near the beach in any flooded valleys or low-lying areas that have potential flooding and landslides, because that's going to be a disaster. You can count on power outages. Now, again, we got Guantanamo Bay involved in this. And guys, we've got a lot of really hard turns in all these models, and it's like, right now it's been stopped. They were hoping that would possibly, well, I'm just saying if it's being manipulated, okay? That would be what they would be hoping for, a turn here. Keep it away from where FEMA's not involved, least people involved. But if you get out here with the Canadian model, it's much different. But I think it may be a battle between how much power can you put into a certain weather project. You read it with me a couple of days ago, what their project was set up to be doing by 2025, and here we are. Go back one hurricane video, I think I've got it there. Anyway, one of their weather manipulation projects. So if you type in weather manipulation, things like that, most of what you're going to get is negative information. They're going to say it's rumors, it's not proven. But what I read to you a few days ago was from the people doing it themselves, the U.S. government. Okay? Well, now if it turns and goes straight and does this another turn through here, that would be the best case scenario for both Cuba and getting over into Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Of course, this would involve more of your southern Bahama Islands, and if the turn goes through here, through central Cuba, it will get the northern sections. Now, again, going back to the point that who has the most interest involved in this is the U.S. Navy, right? Well, they have not put a model up. That is two we always watch. The Canadian model and the Navy model will be a purple band. They've stayed suspiciously far away from this storm on their predictions. Just saying. Now, that Canadian spaghetti model has changed some over the last few days, but I've seen almost no change here. Notice they're not really indicating any kind of storm. This is a different storm in the Atlantic. Nothing strengthening. Maybe something right in here and then moving over Cuba. Should not anywhere near Cat 4, and that's the way it's been for a few days. Again, this may not be being updated that much. Maybe it is due to some of the house spending bills that can't get passed right now. Now, this is the Navy model. They don't have their spaghetti model up, but they do have the visible one up. And it shows a very powerful storm. So at least on this update, they are on top of it, it looks like. Let's step this thing forward. This is today. You see where the low pressure is. Again, a 50-mile-per-hour storm. That may not be updated in this. But again, that's just watch what it does very quickly. Starts to strengthen right there. Starts in the center is more on the eastern tip of Jamaica by this point. It's not showing it coming under it like the Canadian model is. So Jamaica, be ready for that. But if it does that, watch what happens. The entire island gets strafed. Look at this. Now we're up to the 26th. That's 2 days out. That's the 27th, coming off the island of Jamaica. Very powerful storm. Look at it quickly expand once it's back in open water. And it is south of the, again, Guantanamo Bay, moving across that peninsula. That's part of that insulation right there. Now we're on to the 28th of October. 29th, it has moved off the Bahamas. Check that out. And out into the open sea. We'll play it again at full speed. Picking up that moisture, possibly another storm off the East Coast. Check it out. And notice strafe, or going across really all of Jamaica. So between we always use the Canadian model and this model. So between this visual model and their spaghetti model, it's going to be one side or the other where it makes its turn. Again, this one would be more central Jamaica. That would spare the onslaught of the northeast quadrant from the very western tip. But again, the Guantanamo Bay area here under full speed by that time almost. Look at that. Moving out into the Atlantic. At that angle, you guys in the northeast, Atlantic, I'm talking about over in the UK and those areas, watch for a lot of powerful wind and waves and cooler weather coming your way. But guys, we're watching this. You watch it. We're going to really keep an eye on the updates. Now, If you got family down in the Guantanamo Bay area, I'm sure they are very aware of it. But if you can contact them, just tell them to keep their heads up and our heads down in this situation, and don't get stuck in any low-lying areas. So heads up, guys, be safe.